to follow this spirit of a united Africa that we are talking about, we have two major, as I can say, partners or collaborators. It has nothing to do with our internal situations as Africans. Our internal situations, I'm talking about the leadership of Africa. Those are internal issues that we would have to deal with. But we need a collective effort, a united Africa that is not only united in boundary, but a united Africa that is ready to guard its own path, to write its own history in terms of economic development. Now, come, let us identify who are the partners or who are the owners of this particular Africa that we're talking about now. Who controls us on the continent? Most of the time, we're talking about the leadership that is bad. Like I said, that's an internal issue, and we'll have to deal with that. But let us look critically, who are the people that automatically we are responding to them without being conscious. If you look at our economy today, China and Japan are the two, I can say, the two motors of Africa today. 95% of cars that we are using on the continent of Africa are being produced by Japan. They are Japanese cars. We're talking about Toyotas, we're talking about Suzuki's or the Hyundais. 95%. And we begin to ask ourselves, can we not produce cars in Africa and sell to ourselves? That should be a point of thinking about a united Africa. United in purpose. We have China. Nearly everything that we are consuming in China, in Africa, is coming from China. From the least unit of products, I'm talking about a toothpick, is being made in China. And the question is, who are the ones controlling our economy? Because this is an economy war that we are fighting. And so, because China is producing everything, they're using the economy of scale, they have the huge production capacity, and they could sell their products to us at a cheaper price, which in turn destroy our own economies. It means that we cannot be able to produce and compete with them in the market. But let us look at what we have as a potential. What do we have as a value that has risen up? We have the human capacity. The population of Africa is booming. But how are we going to determine the fact that we need to start producing our own goods made in Africa for Africans? This is what we should be thinking as Pan-Africanists. How do we create jobs? How do we negotiate with foreign partners? We have a lot of opportunities and potentials to negotiate how we want the shape and the business landscape of Africa to look like. It all depends on you, great leaders of today. It has nothing or a least to do with our leaders. What has Professor Lumumba, PLO Lumumba, been talking to us all this while? What has his speeches all been about? They have been about the need for us to unite as Africans, but it has also been about the need for us Africans to take the responsibility of the things that we can do by ourselves. So you ask yourself today, what is the thing that you as an African can do? And these are all. We're looking forward for such leadership. We have a lot of natural resources, but we are still consuming resources that are brought to us. So what if we start thinking about those things that we can do? How can we mitigate our production capacity? How can we raise wealth for ourselves and produce our own goods that would be made in Africa and consumed by Africans? How can we do that? The questions keep coming up and saying that we cannot beat China because of the price and the competition, of course, but that is in our mindset. If today we need a united Africa and the spirit of Africa, then we have to start changing our way of thinking. We have to know that we have a cultural corruption. I repeat the words of one of my colleagues, Abute, who said it is an issue of cultural corruption. What does that mean? It means we are inculcating foreign cultures into Africa that does not belong to us. Not only do we promote these cultures, but our level of consuming them, our attitude, our behaviors, how we worship them. We even believe that we are a dark continent, that we are a continent lacking technology and know-how. But today, Africans are rising up to speak with one voice and say we need a united Africa. So if Dr. Arikana is ready, ladies and gentlemen, no, she's still having problems to connect. So we would move on. I like the engagement on the Pan-African Daily TV. When we throw out this survey about one passport for Africa, 99% of your comments were, yes, of course, we need a united Africa. We need a united Africa. We need one passport. We need even one language of communication. We need one currency. We need to have our own money that we can trade and we can do our buy our goods. We need to remove the boundaries. What has become of this regional trade among African countries? These are the questions that we've been receiving from the Pan-African Daily TV. But the issue now is, like we are saying, how are we going to address these issues when we are still solely in our mindset worshipping everything white is white-listed, while everything black is blacklisted? We have to start by the minute questions. We will not be able to produce our own. From the united passport to a united Africa, to one currency, to one language, for instance, Swahili that has been proposed, we still need to start by believing in our potentials. It is a mindset. It is a cultural mindset, and it is a war that we must win as Pan-Africans. If we don't win this war, we will not be able to go through it. If we don't win the war to stand up as Africans and believe in our own values and believe in our capabilities, if we don't consume products made by Africans, irrespective of the prices, irrespective of the marketing technology, irrespective of the etiquetting on these products, we have to start to learn to love everything African and promote it in strong terms. This is a cultural corruption war. The Western or China and Japan, they fashion and package their products and sell it to us, and we buy them and consuming. That money goes back to Japan. It's not only they bring their products, they bring their capacity, they bring their resources with them, they bring even their workers with them, and the locals don't have a job in these factories. And even in these factories, we have seen terrible inhuman treatment. For instance, you know the image we're talking about that has been circulating on social media. Dear sons and daughters of Africa, how is it possible that a Chinese is owning a restaurant in Africa and in Nigeria, and it is not open, it's not accessible to Nigerians? How can this be possible? It is unheard of. But now we are seeing you are rising up in the spirit to say, no, we have to stop this. And it all starts with our cultural mindset. How do we see Black? How do we see African? How do we appreciate these narratives? And how do we consume this gold? So from today, we have to cultivate the Pan-African mindset of made in Africa by Africans for Africa. This is what we've been talking about here. And our economies will strive again. And we will create jobs for ourselves. When they start shutting down our companies because we cannot be able to compete with them, it's because we have taken our consumption to consume foreign products. And so when we become the United Africa and the leaders that we have, we would be the one to set the terms of negotiations, isn't it? We'll be negotiating about our potentials. We'll be determining those terms. But right now, we need a cultural mindset, a drastic cultural mindset. We have to go back to the ideologies of our Pan-African fathers. We have to go back to their agenda. What is it that Kwame Nkrumah was fighting for? What was he preaching? What is it that Patrice Emery Lumumba was killed for? What is it that Mohamed Gaddafi stood up for? What are the values that Haile Selassie of Ethiopia stood for? What is it that you Pan-Africans believe in? Until we start believing in the power of Africa, until we start believing in our own selves and the capability, we would not be liberated. We can be united on a one's passport. We can be united in terms of one currency. At the end of the day, we would not be united if we don't believe in ourselves. Are we ready to go with Dr. Arikana? We are still getting the technique in order to bring Dr. Arikana live, ladies and gentlemen. And while we're waiting on that, we are here on the Pan-African Daily TV to motivate you and to encourage you. Because of this platform, you have seen inventions that are going on currently in Africa, especially with regard to COVID-19. Who could believe that? If we did not open up the Pan-African Daily Show, we Africans would not be even able to believe that we can produce masks in Africa. Because no other mainstream media would show you the factories that are working on that. No mainstream media would show you the ventilators that are being produced in Africa by the students from the university in Kenya. Nobody would be able to show you how Africans are rising up, like even, the agitations concerning the inhuman treatments of our brothers. You would never see it. And so we would be always believing that, the mask that we'll be having for COVID-19 would be a donation from China. Yes. But today we see it every day. Today we see the inventions coming from young Africans from the continent, from dynamic Africans that are standing up to bring solutions to this pandemic. We have seen it. And there has never even been people that are coming up to us to say that, we're giving you loans. We have seen how people have gotten up, how young women tell us have entered into their tailoring workshops and they are sewing all sorts of masses, all sorts of masks to sell on the market. Yes, please. These are the products we have to buy. Make sure if you're going around with a mask in terms of this pandemic, buy it from an African. Buy it from the goods that are being made from Africa. By your own brothers and sisters. And you will see our economic thrive. You will see how we would boom. We will not be talking about shortages in jobs. We will not be talking about unemployment. We will not be talking about poverty. We have seen that it's only us that can eradicate poverty in Africa. You and me, we know it. It doesn't matter what the world tells us. Today we know. And one of the things that is bringing us to this point is we have seen the president of the United States of Africa said they are stopping the 400 million that they used to give to the World Health Organization. So take, for instance, if United States of America would cut this 400 million, it means there won't be even, a solution for the vaccines that would be used to fight the pandemic. And this brings us to one major issues that we're facing on the continent. We have two major challenges that we have to fight. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Pan-Africanists, our problems is not just about our leadership. We have two major problems, and that problems concern you and me as an ordinary Pan-Africanist. We're talking about poverty. We're talking about poverty. We're talking about diseases. These are the two major issues that are affecting us. If we are not able to have a cure to a disease that is affecting us, we are dying. If we are not able to have a job that can put food on our table, we will remain poor. Those are the two major problems that we have on the continent. So, ladies and gentlemen, how do we deal with these problems? How do we deal with it? Because, like I said, it's not a political war, it's an economic war that we are dealing with here. And the moment we don't empower ourselves economically, we can shout, we can do everything, we can even fight racism. It's not going to change the situation until we start taking the responsibilities as leaders of today to define the fate in which is going to change our narratives with a united Africa concept, united in purpose. United in purpose. Yes, we know that our leaders are sleeping, but that's just the least of our problems. We have 1.3 billion people on the continent. And this is a major reason why we are seeing the interest from the developed world. Everybody wants to chop because we have a huge market. Number one. Number two, we have a human capacity in terms of this booming, young people and young intelligence that is going on the continent. We have the capacity to work in our factories and to elevate ourselves. That is one major economic importance. A growing population of young people, 1.3. And now we begin to doubt why the world, why China and Japan. Take, for instance, like I said, 95% of cars that we are using are being produced by Japan and they're exporting it to us. And we are 1.3 billion people. And 95% of people are consuming cars made in Japan. Do we wonder why the money is leaving these coffers? Because it doesn't only have to do about the embezzlement. It has to do with how you consume. If you buy every single product that is not made in Africa by an African producer, so the money is going to a foreign government and a foreign country, and you wonder why we will be running to chase them to look for jobs, and they will be throwing us out. Second thing, diseases. And now if they cut this support, thank God we have a donor, Saudi Arabia. We saw it on the tweet that just stepped in and said, we're giving 500 million to WHO. And we saw this tweet from Dr. Tedros, who said, we're thanking them. So imagine that we were limited and we'll be dying of just a single disease. So why can't we think and say, should we wait from these solutions from the West? What went wrong with our traditional African technology in treating diseases that are not even caused by our own? You all heard the discussion about hydrochloroquine. Please, I'm just discussing and going on because we're waiting to get Dr. Arikana, who is trying to put the technique in order so that we can get her live here. And if we would not be able to get her live, we're going to get her on WhatsApp call. So, in case we are not able to beat up the war, this economic war, by just producing, by just consuming our own, we will never survive Africa. We will never build the Africa that we want. Even as we agitate, even as we have the spirit of Ubuntu to support one another, to stand for one another, we are still going to miss the point. The main thing is the productivity and how we consume these foreign cultures. If we think, like my colleague from Kenya was saying, in Kenya they have something they call Anglophile. It means, you dress in a suit and a tie, you're a gentleman. Where are all these cultures coming from? So before the colonial came to us, before they came to us, what were they? How were we dressing? And now we not only consume the culture, we promote it. And we are even super human beings when we feel like that, when we're westernized. It is a cultural war, and the cultural war will win it through an economic empowerment. Okay,